We are finally getting access to photos taken over Mosul, Iraq, covering the infamous Mosul Orb, that strange kind of metallic-y orb that was flying over the war zone. Are we on the precipice of finally understanding what's going on in our skies? And if we are alone or not alone in the universe? Stay tuned. Guys, today's podcast is sponsored by AMAC, the only conservative alternative to that other group. Join today at amac.us/Carter. Late last week, the Congressional Budget Office released its report on the true cost of 2 years of Democratic leadership. I want you guys to think about this. What have we paid? Literally, I mean, because of the Democrats. How many more trillions of dollars in debt is our nation going to be in? And by the way, China and Japan being first now, China in second place, hold the majority of U.S. debt. Can you believe that? Our adversary, China, holds a good chunk of our U.S. debt. And our nation is spending what we don't have and digging our children into a deeper hole that they're going to have to struggle to get out of. It's shocking how irresponsible our leaders are. And on this podcast, we will call them out. Today, I'm also going to be joined by the great senator from Tennessee, Marsha Blackburn. She's a great friend too. And we will discuss her latest pieces of legislation discussing human trafficking. I'm so proud of this because she has really been on the forefront here. We're also going to talk about China and so much more. She is a true American patriot, and I know you'll love the conversation we're going to have. We'll also stick around because I do not want you to miss what Jeremy Corbell is talking about now. And if you all don't know who he is, Jeremy Corbell is a documentary filmmaker. He's an investigative journalist. And his focus is on these unidentified flying objects that we've been seeing in our skies. And no, this is not crackpot science fiction. This is very much a reality. Our United States government has been tracking these orbs, also tracking other unidentified objects in our skies. And as you know, we saw what happened with the Chinese so-called weather balloon that was spying on our country. But we also have an issue of other objects in our skies near our military installations, near our very sensitive nuclear sites, and we are going to be looking at that. What does this mean? Jeremy Corbell basically exposed the Mosul Orb. He was able to get exclusive access to footage of this orb, this vehicle in the skies above Mosul, Iraq, and the United States military was actually tracking it. So the military actually has its own video of it, a very small section of which Corbell has and is released, but he's asking the United States military to basically answer the question. Answer, what is this? Why are we looking at this? Could this be from a foreign government? Is this something we don't know? Is it an unknown object, which I believe it is, something that could possibly be coming from another place in the galaxy, another part of our universe. So we're going to be bringing that to you. We are going to be bringing you all of the latest and most exclusive information here on the Sara Carter Show. So be sure to visit saracarter.com, saracarter.com for my latest show links and articles. And while you're there, please sign up for our email list so that you don't get shadow banned. Folks, we've got a new sponsor, and it's Allegiance Gold. And you know how much I love this company. Gold and silver, they allow you to protect the assets, right, that you've worked so hard for. And especially now when we've seen woke culture, we've seen what the banks are susceptible to. We saw that in Canada where they were seizing people's bank accounts. My gosh, we saw that here in the United States, where they were forcing people out of banks because those people apparently didn't represent the leftist ideology of the banking systems here in America. Well, you don't want that to happen to you, folks. You do not want that to happen to you. And right now, my friends at Allegiance Gold can help you protect your IRA or 401k with physical gold and silver. You can get $5,000, listen to this, of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. All you have to do is tell them that Sara sent you. Get $5,000 of free silver on a qualifying purchase when you tell them that Sara sent you. So don't wait. Call or click today, 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-7272 or 877-702-SARA, SARA. Or go to protectwithsara.com We can't control the Biden administration, folks, but we can prepare. 877-702-7272. That's 877-702-7272 or protectwithsara.com. So I want to jump right into the CBO report because this is very important because it affects every single one of our lives, right? So when we go to the grocery store, I mean, I don't even know what's happening at the grocery store personally because every time I go, and yeah, I do go to the grocery store. I don't have someone go grocery shopping for me. In fact, just yesterday, I was at the grocery store picking up some things that we had forgotten because I'm leaving for Ohio again. And, and I'm working with Fox and there's, things I got to do. I'm a mom. I've got my husband at home who can't drive. Sure, we could order groceries online, but guess what? They charge you a fortune for that. So I go down to the grocery store and I'm just stunned at how much everything is costing me. And I'm thinking to myself, man, if I'm worried about this, and I remember the days, I mean, I'm older now, but I remember the days where I was living exactly paycheck to paycheck. I mean, I would be cutting out coupons or looking for the best deals or buying only the store brand products, right? And I'm thinking to myself, how can Americans continue to afford this? Inflation is out of control. I mean, you go to Starbucks to get a coffee, you're not paying $4 and something cents anymore. You're paying over $5 for a grande, and then they want a tip. And you feel bad because the kid's working over on the other side of the bar. We all know how that is. You're like, oh man, I'm not going to not tip them. I'm going to give them a tip. So you give them a tip, you pay for your coffee, you walk out of there, you've spent close to $7 on one frou-frou coffee, which is why now I go and buy the big box of the pods, and we use the Keurig because I know I'm going to drink more than one coffee in a day. But I was looking at this Congressional Budget Office report, and it's just crazy how much the Biden administration has literally turned our nation upside down. Remember when Biden promised he wasn't going to be the next Bernie Sanders? Remember when we all thought he was going to be more of a centrist? Oh, I didn't think that. A lot of people were talking about that on the media. Oh, Biden is so much more of a centrist. He is like Bernie Sanders on steroids. Literally Bernie Sanders on steroids. Maybe Bernie Sanders wouldn't even be this bad. But we have had the biggest expansion of government since 1960. That is according to the Congressional Budget Office report. I want you to listen to this. Revenues last year hit 19.6% of the gross domestic product. It was far above the 17.4% average over the last 50 years. And a share of the economy reached only in 1944, 1945, and 2000. I want you to think about this. Interest rates through the roof, right? And they're planning on raising it again because they're trying to taper off this inflation, but people are spending, which is a good thing, I think. And I'm not an economist, but one of the things that I thought was so interesting in this whole CBO report, that's a Congressional Budget Office, for all of you who don't know the layman's, I guess it's a layman's word for CBO, because CBO, the acronym, it's like they throw that around in Washington, D.C. like it's, drinking water. Like my friend Linda says. But the thing is that they expect us to just be blind to what is actually happening. And we can't, because it affects our pocketbooks. It affects our children's lives. It affects everything that we do. So right now we have the biggest expansion in government that we're going to have more government employees, a bigger bureaucracy. And we've seen what's happened with the bureaucracy, right? We've already seen since, let's just go back to 2016 and the weaponization of our bureaucracies on President Trump. So we're growing the bureaucracy. Thank God the House is now in control of the GOP. And thank God President Biden couldn't add the 82,000 extra IRS agents, because they would have wanted even more. They would have held us hostage, literally. Anybody who disagrees with the leftist narrative, everybody saw what the IRS did under Lois Lerner to the Tea Party and everybody else. But right now we're seeing the biggest growth in government. That does us no good at all, Because in the end, we are going to pay for it, and we are going to pay for it big. Listen to this. The annual budget deficits will keep climbing as a share of the economy, and it's going to go from 5.2% of the GDP, which was in 2022, to literally 6.9% in 2033, with annual red ink, which will hit, listen to this, $2.7 trillion in a single year. We can't even afford that. But I think a bigger part of this story is what the CBO said, and it's kind of buried deep in this crazy report. It's the fact that we are spending less on our defense. And I know you guys are thinking, oh, don't we give so many millions and billions to the, Defense Department? No, we are not even ready to fight a two-front war right now, folks, which is what we're required to do. We have to be able to battle adversaries on two fronts, because that way we can protect the United States. Even if we send our military someplace else, we have to be able to protect our country. And we've been watching what is happening right now, slowly but surely, with China, with Russia, with the fact that we've got Russian subs. The Norwegians are reporting this. Nuke ready. We haven't seen this, my gosh, in forever. We're seeing threats all across the globe. We have the Chinese literally in a proxy war with us. I'm going to say it again. They are killing our children in America with counterfeit pills, with fentanyl. And I don't know why this administration is on a fast track towards American doomsday. I really don't understand it. I'm trying to comprehend because, even in the past, Democrats and Republicans would find a way to work together on certain issues, right? We would try to find a way. We'd always have the agreement, but we could always understand each other to some extent. But we have an administration now, like I called it, Bernie Sanders on steroids. They want to basically break down the foundation of our country the way we know it. Break down our border security. Give our security to the Chinese. I mean, literally allow a Chinese spy balloon to move 8 days over the United States, literally using ground penetrating radar and laser capabilities to measure our infrastructure in Montana, where 150 ICBM, by the way, those were the same area of Montana. We're going to be talking about the UFO story later in here. And Jeremy, Corbell's piece that he broke on the Mosul Orb. But this area of Montana, by the way, was the same area where our nuclear program, our military, witnessed a very similar type of orb that actually shut down the nuclear site for a period of time. That's actually declassified documents that have shown that. So there was some kind of UFO flying around those sites. I'm talking, I think this was in the 1960s. But here we have the Chinese, flying over their giant balloon. And no, the Chinese government is not delivering something special for us. They're actually stealing from us, and they are moving this balloon across America using ground penetrating radar to see what we have under the earth. What do you think they're measuring? They're trying to see if we've got what nukes are active. Are those silos filled? Do we have, are we on a ready alert? They are collecting data and information from our country, and this government let them. And we are not spending the money we need to in the appropriate places in our military. And we've got a bunch of generals who are politicians instead of being military leaders in Washington, D.C., at the Pentagon, who are twiddling their thumbs and kissing ass to President Joe Biden and his administration and not really caring about you, the American people. They are more worried, literally, about being equitable and transgender issues in the military than they are about your own safety. I'm telling you, this is the truth. This is the truth. And when you look at this and you look at all of these issues combined, something we're going to talk to Senator Marsha Blackburn about. How are we not supposed to be upset about this? How are we supposed to be okay about this? And for those of us, and I know all of you out there are thinking like, well, how are we supposed to keep up with all of this? How are we supposed to keep up with, our government playing these tricks behind our backs and expanding government and, not taking care of our US military or not investing in the right ways in education or giving us the choice to put our children in better schools instead of these crazy, sometimes very dangerous public school situations where instead of teaching them arithmetic and math, math, science, social studies, English, reading and writing, and sports and theater and all of the wonderful and art, the teachers are more worried about converting your child and basically brainwashing them with this leftist ideology. They're not worried about everything else. We are so far behind. We are so far behind in the world when it comes to education. So we need to be considering that. I get it. We're busy. We don't have a lot of time always to keep up with everything, to know what's going on around us all the time. But that's why we put people into office who are meant to do that. They are working for us. We are paying their salaries. They are the ones that are going to be fighting Biden on the budget. Kevin McCarthy has to hold the Biden administration accountable. Everybody has to be working together. And guess what? I think we did the job. I mean, at least we got the House, right? There's a balance there. But we have to continue to hold our lawmakers accountable. And I will be back with Senator Blackburn in a moment to talk about that. But first, I want to tell you about Donors Trust. And this is a place where you can actually put your money and know that it's going to go to an organization, a nonprofit that you actually believe in, and one that's going to make a difference in the world. That's why I'm so grateful to have them as a sponsor of the show. It's Donors Trust. They are principled, tax-friendly, and they're a charitable way of giving without exposing you, right? And you're able to give your money to the charities that you want. You can do it with flexibility, with privacy, and at a tax savings with a donor-advised fund. They will help you find the right fund for your donation. It's so incredible what they do at Donors Trust. I absolutely love this group. I think they're wonderful, whether it's saving unborn babies, empowering entrepreneurs to offer alternatives to failing public schools, or fighting green energy extremists. Who doesn't want to do that? That want to consolidate power. Donors Trust is the charitable giving account provider for you. Let my friends at Donors Trust help minimize your tax liability while maximizing your giving. Visit www.donorstrust.org/Sara. That's www.donorstrust.org/Sara. Again, www.donorstrust.org/Sara. In just a few moments, I'm going to have Senator Blackburn on the show. And the reason why I brought her on is because probably one of the most important issues to me right now that I believe we all as a country should be fighting against is human trafficking, and particularly the cartel trafficking of narcotics into the United States and children. We can stop this. We actually have the capability to do this. We just do not have a administration with the will to do it. So we got to keep holding them accountable. I was with Senator Blackburn, Senator Sidney Hyde-Smith, as well as Senator Britt at the border about a month ago. I brought Carla Jacinto, a survivor of human trafficking, and Rosie Orozco, who runs an anti-trafficking organization, to meet with the senators. They also met with ranchers in Texas, as well as law enforcement officials. And they came away from this CODEL just great fighters, wonderful, amazing women that are fighting for us on the front lines. And this is what we need. And I just want to tell you really quick, she has legislation right now. They are proposing legislation to stop taxpayer funding of the Traffickers Act. It is It's based on this recent visit that we helped set up. I think it's amazing. The legislation is sponsored by all of the senators. Also, Congresswoman Kat Kamak, who's leading the charge in the legislation in the House. This is so important because here we have here we have our legislators actually taking action. They're not just going down to the border for a dog and pony show. They are trying to save not only the people that are being trafficked, but you, the American taxpayer, from being a part of that. That is why we have to pay attention to what happens in Washington, D.C. That is why each and every one of our voices is important in this. That is why when we continue to fight this, we will be saving our children's lives as well. That is why I'm grateful to have Senator Marsha Blackburn on the show with me today. I'm so grateful to have, once again, Senator Marsha Blackburn here on the Sara Carter Show from the great state of Tennessee. Thank you so much, Senator.
Happy to join you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm happy you're with me too, because we had our border trip last month and it was just absolutely remarkable. I've been to the border so many times, even over the last 20 years, but I felt like there was so much accomplished with you, Senator, and Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith and Senator Britt from Alabama. And I felt that there was a real moment there where we really could, discuss and talk about the crisis, the humanitarian crisis, as well as the national security crisis that we are facing.
You're right about that. And the humanitarian crisis, anybody that says an open border is humanitarian, it's compassionate, it's the right thing to do, they just need to go with us and see firsthand what we see and talk to people that we talk to at the border, because there is nothing compassionate about this. When you talk to women and children who have been put into sex trafficking rings, have been repeatedly raped over a period of years, who have survived this, when you hear about the 26,000 children that are missing in Mexico alone, when you hear about the cartels working in 176 different countries and bringing people to our border. The cartels are the ones making money on this. When you learn about how people that don't have the money to pay the cartel are basically put into slavery and indentured servitude and forced to work in gangs, in drug trafficking rings, as drug mules, as labor gangs, as sex trafficking rings. These are things that people are having to do to pay their way. And this story of you're coming to America and it's going to be a better life, that's not it at all, because of what the cartels are doing to these people. And to see firsthand, to hear it, unbelievable.
Yeah, it really was. It really was unbelievable. And, Carla Jacinto's story was one of them, and just the horrors that she lived through as a child being trafficked, and the disappearance of some of her friends in that trafficking organization, even here in the United States. And you're right, the 26,000 children whose parents are looking for them have no idea where these children are or if they're alive or dead. But because of that, and because of everything that you have been fighting against, that you've been fighting against the drug traffickers, the failure of this administration at our border, the need to strengthen our border security for the national security of the United States and the American citizens, has actually driven you to a new piece of legislation that's combating human trafficking. And I think it's multi-pronged. Explain what it is and why this piece of legislation is so important.
And we're going to start having some hearings on these. The End Child Trafficking Now Act would require individuals that come to the border with a child who is not their child, but require them to present the documentation that they are related to this child, or if the child is theirs and they do not have documentation, they have to submit to a DNA test. And if people are going to come to the border, claim that this is their niece or their nephew, or this is their child, they have no documentation, being able to confirm through a 45-minute DNA test that this is indeed their child, it is vitally important because we have so many children who are missing. And we have to be able to confirm that they are with a person who has their best interest at heart.
God, thank you so much. This is going to save so many children's lives. It is such a blessing. I know that for people like Rosie Orozco, who has been fighting human trafficking for the children that have been trafficked into this country, that our government has just let fall into the hands of strangers or, God help, traffickers. This is going to make the biggest difference in the world. This piece of legislation will not only save lives, but it will strengthen, I believe, our security in the country. Speaking of security, because our challenges are huge right now, Senator Blackburn, I know everybody, I've got neighbors that are worried. I've been talking to family members, friends, folks, that are interested in the show or, on Fox. There's a lot of concern about what is happening with China right now and our sovereign territory, the Chinese spy balloon, for one, the fact that we've had 3 unidentified objects being shot down that the government has not talked about. Like, what are these spy balloons? Are these related to China? Are these ours? Are they Russian? What could they be? But this is a very dangerous time. This is a very insecure time, I feel.
It is indeed an insecure time. And it is a time when people are asking a lot of questions and they're very fearful. But bear in mind, fearful people are easier to control. My hope is that this time around, people are going to stand up and say, hey, wait a minute. The Biden administration needs to come clean on this. How many balloons have you seen over the last several months? And why did it take a citizen in Montana who's a pilot, who has a high-def camera, to take that picture, put it up online at the newspaper website and say, hey, what does anybody know about this? Now, Sarah, if they had not done that, if that citizen who saw something had not said something, we still wouldn't know about this. And that balloon would have been out there across the whole country. So it is imperative that people be watchful and that they speak up. And there are so many questions. And even though we have had one classified briefing, we still do not know a lot of answers. How do they go about making the assessment on that balloon? How do they know that it is not carrying a biologic? How do they know it's not carrying a poisonous gas? How do they know that it is only this equipment in the payload? How did they decide that when it came into Alaska, the Chinese spy balloon, that it was going to drift across, go into Montana? Why did they choose not to shoot it down when it came into the main part of the country? How did they assess that it was going to go out over the East Coast? And when it got out in the ocean, they could shoot it. How did they know it wouldn't stall out and go to all of our states and look at all of our critical infrastructure and our military installations? So these are things that people are questioning. Then also, you had balloon 1, the Chinese spy balloon, but then why is it that we have had these other 3 balloons in rapid succession? And why has NOTAM changed something? Has NORAD changed something? Have they decided to monitor? Or is it now that when they see something, they've decided they better say something?
You're absolutely right. All of those questions are the same questions that are running through my mind, and even more because my husband, my husband served in the military. I covered the war for 8 years, back and forth in Afghanistan and Iraq several times. And one of the things that I learned is battlefield preparation. When the Taliban or when our enemies like Al Qaeda or, Iraqi insurgents are preparing, there's always that, or our adversaries, there's battlefield preparation. And I got to tell you, I feel very exposed with what our government has allowed to happen, even under the Obama administration. The Huawei technology in our cell towers in Montana, the fact that we have 150 ICBM silos there, and we have this balloon flying overhead, and those access to the Huawei technology. I don't know what that could possibly, how that connection could be made, but I probably, as CFIUS, would probably vote against having Huawei technology right near our ICBM. Now these balloons, I would be very concerned about what China is preparing to do or planning.
Well, we know what China wants to do, and they want to be globally dominant by the time we get to 2050. Anybody that does not believe that, please go read the 100-Year Marathon. It will open your eyes. Go to my website, blackburn.senate.gov. Pull down the white paper I did in 2020 about how we need to be pushing back against the Chinese Communist Party. Get up to speed on these things. And Sara, here's where the border connects to all of this. You have mentioned the food supply and how the Chinese are trying to buy up our food processors, how they're trying to buy up farmland. I had a piece of legislation that would block them from buying farmland up next to our military installations. Every Democrat voted against it. This is something everybody should be for. But then you also have to look at the Huawei technology, telecommunications equipment, and then look at what is happening at the border. When we talk to the Border Patrol, go talk to somebody down in Arizona. They have more Chinese. They're seeing such an increase in people from China that are coming across that border illegally. Some of our border crossings have had a 100%, 200, 500, 800% increase. This is not by accident. Go talk to some of the cities where you have now Chinese police stations that are set up here in the U.S., and they are there to monitor Chinese that are in the U.S. here working. Some of them are in universities, but they are going through a surveillance program. You look at TikTok. What is TikTok doing to our children? You look at the COVID vaccine. Who did the COVID vaccine most adversely impact? Look at the myocarditis that primarily young men have developed. And you say, where is a thread in all of this? And it is the Chinese Communist Party. You look at the atrocities the Chinese Communist Party is carrying out on their own people. The Tibetans, the Mongolians, the Uyghurs, there's a genocide there. You look at the Hong Kong freedom fighters. You look at the bullying that China is doing to Taiwan, to the Pacific Island nations. This weekend, China was bullying Philippines. So these are things that we need to say, there is a pattern of aggression here. And regardless of what this administration and Joe Biden think, China is not a friendly competitor. China is an adversary. They are trying to do us in. They think Joe Biden is weak, and they think this is the time that we've got some runway. We're going to make good use of this time because the next president might have the same policies that President Donald Trump and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo had. When Xi Jinping knew never to challenge them because he knew that if he did, there would be hell to pay. And that is why they didn't try to go in and float balloons. They didn't try to bully Taiwan. They didn't try to get people in their country or open police stations on U.S. soil.
And you know what, Senator Blackburn, I believe that wholeheartedly. And I keep saying to myself, exactly as you said, this is the reason why they're upping the ante right now, because they know right around the corner is another US election. And they would much rather have somebody as weak as Biden in office, but they know they can't really control that, right? They can't really they control narratives. They can go into TikTok, they can mess with algorithms, they can do all of that and collect information. But they have a short window, like you said, Senator, a short window. And that is what I think. Thank God you're paying attention to that. I just wish I could believe that the administration would pay attention to that. I'm going to give you the last word, and then I'm going to let you run and vote and do all the great things that you do up on Capitol Hill.
Well, thank you, Sarah. Yes, indeed. We are going to continue to fight this. Our children and grandchildren deserve better. And it is time for this administration to get tough. They need sanctions on China. And Sarah, look at what is happening with the new axis of evil, as I have termed them: Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. You've got the Iranians selling drones to Russia to use in the battle against Ukraine, and now they're going to manufacture drones in Russia. You have the Chinese providing navigation equipment to the Russians so that they can use that against the Ukrainians. You have North Korea providing rockets to Russia to fight the Ukrainians. All of this is happening. All of this is documented. Our country, we should protect our sovereignty. Yes, land, sea, air. We should be doing that. We should be calling the Chinese Communist Party out, and we should be working with our allies to make certain that freedom is going to prevail, not the axis of evil.
Thank you so much, Senator Blackburn, for being on the show. And I look forward to you coming back on and updating us everything from China to your role on the Senate Finance Committee. That's going to be something that I'd like to chat with you about in the future. And thank you again for passing legislation that is actually going to save lives. It is not just talk, it's actual action, and children's lives will be saved. Thank you again for being a part of the show.
Thank you.
If you like today's topic, please subscribe to our channel for more content like this. It really does help. Hey everyone, I know you love my pillow. I love my pillow. I've got my house full of my pillow. Even my dogs are sleeping on a my pillow. And right now there is a very special offer for listeners of the Sara Carter Show, and it's a buy one get one free on My Pillow 2.0. That's My Pillow 2.0. For a limited time, when you buy My Pillow 2.0, you get another one free with code Carter. That's CARTER. Go to mypillow.com for My Pillow 2.0. Buy one, get one pricing plus discounts on your favorite My Pillow products like towels, sheets, slippers, and more by using code Carter. Stay cool and sleep better with the My Pillow 2.0. My Pillow 2.0. Buy one, get one free sale going on now at mypillow.com. Promo code Carter. mypillow.com. Promo code Carter. So, I've been keeping you updated here and there and bringing on guests that I think are super informative when it comes to dealing with UFOs, unidentified flying objects, or what do they want to call it now? Unidentified aerial phenomena. Whatever you call it, we don't know what it is. It's in our skies. And we've been talking a lot about that lately, at least the news has, whether or not it's been the shooting down of the Chinese spy balloon or the other unidentified objects that our military shot down afterwards because Biden was freaking out about the backlash because he decided to let the Chinese fly a balloon all across the United States, like we talked about earlier. But there is a very serious concern with unidentified objects that don't appear to be from any nation. They don't appear to be made with technology that we have readily available on Earth. This is the big concern. And it's actually the reason why we saw during the Trump administration, there were leaks given to the New York Times. And Lou Elizondo, my friend Lou Elizondo, who worked with ATIP at the Pentagon, came out and spoke publicly. Chris Mellon, who was an assistant secretary of defense, also spoke publicly about the fact that the Pentagon is watching our skies as well as NASA. And we are living in a very different time, in a time where people are talking more about this and not being ostracized for it. Because if we aren't alone in the universe, folks, I want to know about it. You should know about it. It shouldn't be some kind of US secret, right? Or French secret, or a secret that's being held by the Russians or anyone else. We should be made aware of our place in the universe and what that means to us and our future. And so Jeremy Corbell is an amazing documentary investigative reporter. He's worked with Lou Elizondo. He's worked with others. And he posted the most incredible photo of a orb, a UFO. This is actually military footage. It was leaked to him. And it's he has a very small piece of it and cannot get the military. By the way, he can't get the Defense Department now to speak to him or anyone, as a matter of fact, about what this could be. And this was an orb that was captured on camera by our military over Mosul, Iraq. So a conflict zone. This is the first time we've ever seen this. And Jeremy Corbell really emphasizes this as he discusses it. And Fox News actually did an amazing piece on this revelation of this UFO. And I also did one on my website, saraacarter.com. But I want you to take a listen to what Jeremy Corbell has to say about this, because I think I 100% agree with him. He and I were talking back and forth on Twitter, actually. I'm going to be contacting the Defense Department about this and seeing if I can't get some answers. But I want you to hear what he has to say, and then I'll kind of go into a little bit of the details of what it is before I let y'all go. Listen to this.
There's no reason the American public shouldn't be shown this video. There's no reason that any of this should be held back and hidden from the American public. We are all dealing with this too. The American public is dealing with this too. Our warfighters, from Commander David Fravor to Commander Underwood to Lieutenant Ryan Graves, the Red Rippers, the Black Aces, everybody that defends our nation, they are encountering these, and it's a flight safety issue, if nothing else. But I will say this, UAP is designated at a much higher level than just safety of flight. There are bigger concerns about UAP, concerns that deal with the idea of weapons of mass destruction. Do these objects, do they carry payloads? Who's operating? What's the origin? What's the intent? None of those questions have been answered to the American public. So the first thing the Pentagon can do is start being honest with the American public. They can tell them about the Mosul Orb. They can tell them that this is not unique, it's happening every day. And they can tell them that the Mosul Orb is designated UAP and is under active investigation. All of this should be done. And in fact, I challenge Arrow, I challenge them to release the video to the American public. There's no reason they can't do that.
He's absolutely right. We have the right to know. We pay their salaries. We are the ones seeing these objects, at least our military is. They're not crazy. And remember, when people would see these things in the past, they would designate them to like the realm of crazy. That's how they got everybody to shut up and not talk about it. How unfair was that? But Jeremy Corbell's right. And by the way, that was from his Weaponized podcast. Go to weaponizedpodcast.com. Credit where credit is due. I love this guy. And George Knapp, who is, by the way, one of the greatest journalists covering this subject in American history. He's from the Las Vegas area, and he is phenomenal. Phenomenal. Treated it seriously from the very beginning. None of that UFO laughter crap that happens all the time. Because we're really dealing with something we don't quite comprehend. but we also should not be left in the dark. I agree with Corbell. We have a right and a need to know, and I will do my part to contact the Department of Defense and see if they answer my question. We'll bring that to you on the next update. I will reach out to the Defense Department and to everybody I know, and let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can get. Let's see if they do what Corbell says, if they release the video or tell us what it means. And that is the Mosul Orb, folks. Go to saracarter.com. That's saracarter.com for the latest stories. You're not going to find them anywhere else. We're going to consolidate them all right there. All the stories that you want and that you need to read right there at saracarter.com. Follow me on Truth at Sara Carter Official, on Twitter at Sara Carter DC, and on Instagram at scarterdc. Thank you so much for joining me today. I love being here with you. I love this podcast. I love you as an audience. God bless you. God bless our great nation. And God bless the great state of Texas.